just got back from the Duct Tape Drags, and that was a great event. If you ever have the chance, you should go to it for sure. It's a lot of fun, a lot of playing with cars, and just a good old time. Now, to show you how the weekend went, these are my time slips. This is the only one I didn't win, and he ran 11 seconds, so that doesn't even count. So I had a lot of fun. Now, if you got a few minutes, I'll show you what happened. I realized that my old catch can radiator overflow bottle did pass tech for 2 years now. There might be an issue now. It's gotten a little more wrinkly. So I'm going to replace this thing. And now, we can attach things straight to the can. Catch can. Rolled some aluminum into a circle a little bit bigger than the can, filled it with silicone, so this will actually take the load of the clamp so the can doesn't squish. When I slid it through this aluminum reinforcement, I had a little too much silicone. Some of it oozed down to the bottom, but that's okay because that locked the bottom firmly on the chassis. So that is in there solid and not going anywhere. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. I think that'll be good. I'll load it up and I'm leaving today. Gonna set my goals really low. First off, make it down the track without braking. Should be able to do that. It sounds pretty healthy. Next, I have only run 15 seconds, no more, no less, always 15 something, and 89 miles an hour, so high 80 miles an hour. So my goal for performance is to break the 15 barrier into 14s and 90 something miles an hour, which should be doable. I actually am hoping, if things go really well, might be able to break into the 13s at over 100 miles an hour. Don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll find out. So we're about to hit the road. Just getting a few last things done, packing up, and we're out of here. Quick tech tip. If you haul a vehicle a lot on the same trailer, or the same type of vehicle, mark where the front tire goes on the driver's side so you can see where it is when you drive up. That is this Jeep. That is my line for flat fenders. So just take a paint marker and mark that down. That way every time you drive up, you get your tongue weight right. You don't have to worry about it. The drive there, started noticing a little bit of a thumping on the trailer. Felt a little funny. Luckily it was just about dinner time. We were coming up on Deming. So we went ahead and pulled into that town, stopped at the Wendy's, I checked out the tire, and it's coming apart. Had a little bit of a vibration happening. So yeah, gonna do something about that. Luckily there's a Walmart right there, and they have a tire store, and they weren't busy. So I went in there, they had a new tire put on and me out the door, and about the time it took me to eat a burger. So my hat's off to the guys in the Walmart in Deming. They did a fantastic job. The rest of the trip was pretty uneventful, no problems there. Got to the races and everything went pretty smoothly. Made it through tech, no problem, because clearly this is a safe vehicle. And then I got to go do some racing. It was just open, test and tune, run whatever against whoever. So I popped out on the track, and the first run, it felt really good.
Number 4429.
So first pass, got 14.6 at 96 miles an hour. So I hit my first goal, so breaking into 14s at 90. The second pass didn't quite go so well. Apparently, I decided to shift from second into fifth. So then I was trying to figure out why the RPMs were so low. Eventually I shifted back to third. Did finish the run and managed to win. So that one was slower. That one was 15.5 at 92 miles an hour. So even completely missing a gear, it was still faster than I used to be. Then the third run came up. And I was just hot lapping. I was just going around and never really letting the motor cool down at all. And then it started surging a lot. I really didn't know what went wrong, but I remember those metal shavings in the fuel pump that I didn't worry about. There are a whole bunch of metal chips in there. That's probably not a good sign. Well, I could do something about that or completely ignore it. So what I'm going to do is wipe them off and completely ignore it. Figured that might be coming up. So I checked the fuel pump and it was burning hot. So I think the fuel pump was starting to fail on me. So I got to fix that or do something. And I did not bring a spare with me. So I'm going to be stopping at a parts store tonight and see if I can fix it in the morning. They had some generic clacker pumps, and then I went poking through the internet listings, and they had a better pump that was hidden in the back. Now this is actually a pretty nice pump. It's rubber mounted, it flows pretty well, and it's not that loud. So it's one you want to consider if you're doing something like this. It's the next day. This is the day of the Battle of the Beaters. And I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with the fuel pump. It seems like it's just getting hot. It seemed like it ran out of fuel. I also heard, because I have it running dead into a regulator, that without the fuel flowing through it, without a return system, it'll heat up a lot quicker than normal. And so I may just be overheating it by keeping it running. So I'm debating using the pump I have, try to keep it cool, and or replace it with a new pump that may or may not work at all. So I'm kind of leaning towards trying out the old one, but I haven't tried it yet this morning, so I got to make sure it actually still works at all. Then my oil pressure gauge and the temperature gauge completely gone. The needle started spinning around. So yeah, I have no idea what the oil pressure is. I have no idea what the temperature is, but it hasn't boiled and it hasn't started clattering. So I'm going to call it good. And let's try out the fuel pump and see what happens. Well, that's a bad sign. That thing looks like a balloon. So I got an issue here. I'm not going to run it like that because I don't want that exploding while I'm driving. So this is the fuel line that went between the pump and the steel line. And I found that in it. Not 100% sure what it is, but that was after the pump. So that came out of or came through the pump. So that might be an issue. Luckily, I have a new one on there. Got a new pump. Gonna try to reuse the filter and scrounge up some fuel line to connect the whole thing together. Need to replace that fuel line that burst into a bubble. Looks like I have some spare line right here, so we're just gonna shorten that up and reuse the end of it. Got the new fuel system plumbed in, all wired up, and I think we're ready to give it a try. Here's the final installation. The bracket didn't actually hold both bolt holes, so this bolts off to the side, just sort of crimping the bracket down, not actually bolted through it. I had to use a piece of tubing to connect the fuel filter, and in order to get the alignment, I put the bracket on the other side, moved it back one hole, and yep, a zip tie holding it in with the other hole. So this is basically perfect. Best run ever, 14.1 at 99.28 miles an hour. So I'm real close to my goal of trying to break into 13s at 100. Don't know if I'll make it, but I'm close enough. I'm real happy about it. Also, the gauges, the water temperature and the oil pressure both started working again. So apparently that part fixed itself. The starter wouldn't start this morning when it was cold. I had to hit it with a hammer in order to start it. Actually, a real nice fellow over here at the track laid under my vehicle and hit it with a hammer while I held the key on. So it started. And now it's starting about every third time I click it. So obviously there's a starter problem. And I'm not going to fix it because so far it's been going, and I'm just going to keep it running once it starts. Worst case scenario, I can pop start it since I have a standard. So that's where we're at. I'm going to go get some lunch. I didn't want anything else to go wrong, so I just shut it down and waited till the Battle of Beaters. Now the Battle of Beaters is an interesting race because there is one rule. You have to be worth less than $3,000 in order to compete. And a lot of people try to break that rule. So you get a lot of interesting vehicles pull up.
Oh, is that right? Woo! Yeah. The race 12. Suzu power, baby. Exactly.
Now the other cool thing about the Battle of the Beaters is it happens when a lot of other stuff is going on the track there. So you get to see a lot of behind the scenes action that not everyone else gets to see. Well, once the vehicles are in line, they go through judging, which they have some of the roadkill guys do it. Freiberger, Finnegan, Dulcich, we're all up there at some point. And they go through and decide whether or not your car is worth $3,000 or more, and then they kick you out. Less, you get to go race.
work right there. That's ZJ.
So there I was, lined up, ready to go. And it happened, I was lined up with a late 70s station wagon, which looked pretty innocent until you look at the tires. And I noticed he had very stock looking steel rims with little skinny front tires and nice wide, looked like drag radials to me. And I figured this guy is going to go fast. He looked like he had a lot of experience. He looked like he knew what he was doing. I figured I was out in the first run. So I figured I might as well just go for it. I was just going to push this motor. Now the push rods I put in said do not go over 6,000 RPM, do not use for racing. Now I'm racing it, but I figure I'll try to shift around 5,500. So since the tach is set for 4 cylinders, it'll be 11 on the tach. Because of course, if it goes up to 11, that's better. So anyway, I figured I'm just going to push this thing and just see what'll do it. Because I figured I was out anyway, and I figured it was my last run of the weekend. So, we get up the line. The guy takes the jump on me because apparently I forgot to look for a green light. And then I go. And the Jeep is running. Apparently, there's a lot more power available at the high RPM range. So we went to 11 and beyond. Got it. And that gave me the fastest time I had all weekend. That was a 13.495 at 100.46 miles an hour. So I got my 13s, I got my 100, and I won the race. So I was around to the next round of the Battle of the Beaters. As soon as I started going, my ignition cut out. And it barely held together. I did manage to win. But that was my worst time ever. That was a 16-second quarter mile. And I knew something was wrong. But it ran fine on the return road and go back around again, and it just died. Spun the tires like, whoop, done. And that was it. That was all she wrote. Completely out of ignition, no spark at all. I checked, I pulled the air cleaner off. I did have fuel going into the car, so the ignition had cut out of me. So that was the end of my experience at the Battle of the Beaters. But it was a lot of fun. Everything that went wrong with it was pretty minor. Even when the ignition died completely, I let it sit there for an hour, started right back up. Runs fine now. I had one other goal, but it was really a joke. Matt Henry drew me this of my Jeep. And when I saw that, I said, that's awesome. Next year I'm going to do wheelies. I was joking. Then when I was editing video, I came across this clip. Now you tell me, it looks to me like I got that front wheel off the ground. So I think my cheap Jeep with cheap radial tires is actually pulling the front wheels. That's cool. I met a lot of great people there. It's a good crowd, everyone's having fun. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by and saying hi. And I'm glad I'm doing something you enjoy watching. Makes me want to keep doing it. And also a special thanks to Joe. Not only did he let me use his video footage for some of the clips you see, he also helped me push the car off the track when I couldn't get it started. So thanks. As long as they hold it again next year, I will be there. And hopefully with some more upgrades and more reliable. In the meantime, I've got to move on to other projects. I've got stuff sitting around that needs to get built. So I'm going to get to it, and you keep having fun.